Hello, friends. So, today we are going to talk about different sources of history. Now, why do we have to talk about sources of history? Is because just like how we have different ingredients to a recipe, the same way we also have sources which are required to build history, to construct history. Because history is just not there, it's not available straight away in a raw form. It has to be obtained. And how do you obtain the history? What has gone by in the past, the event of the past, it is not very easy to understand that particular event, right? It's very difficult. Let's say we are talking about a particular battle or a particular event in history which is given to you in a form of a story, in a form of a narrative. You remember that particular narrative, right? You don't remember the details. And the most important thing is that the narrative is woven around those details. Are those details right? Are those details wrong? How has the history been constructed of that particular topic is something that is very important. And for that, we ought to understand what are different types of sources. For example, primary sources and secondary sources. So here I have this particular slate on which I have written, as you can see, what are sources of history? I hope you're able to see this. What are sources of history? So the first thing I've written over here is inscriptions. So yes, you will wonder why am I speaking about the inscriptions at this stage is because when the recorded history came into being, that is the historical era, anything prior to recording of history, we call that as a prehistoric era. But when we have history as it was written, the first form we all guess was inscriptions. And where do you find these inscriptions? You find these inscriptions everywhere. They could be in caves, they could be in mountains, they could be in various places that the human habitats were. And these inscriptions, sometimes we understand, sometimes we don't understand because we don't know the language of that time, right? But we at least come to know from what is inscribed there that that particular civilization had a lifestyle that is depicted in maybe some pictures, or maybe we can figure out their writing practices and their symbols, etc. We come to know something. But constructing history from just plain inscriptions is very difficult. Very difficult. So, what else do we have? Then we have written history. What about written history? See, how written history must have come about is very simple. People started writing, but for that they needed a chemical called ink, and to write on something that would stay long, they needed paper. So it is very easy to, I mean, no prices for guessing that once the paper was invented, people started writing, and whatever they wrote became history. I know I'm overgeneralizing, but every written word is history. Every written word is history. Only thing is that how do you interpret that written word is totally up to the interpreter. But we are not doing interpretations of history right now or interpretations of writing right now. But yes, all we can gather from this is other than the inscriptions, other than the inscribed letters or figures or carvings or day to day lifestyle scenes. The second type of medium is written words. Besides these two, there is a bit of a intangible form of history that is called the oral history. Now, why am I calling this a bit of an intangible form is because oral tradition is something which one generation tells the other, or one person tells the other, gets passed on from generations to generations. It's likely to become a little dilute, or maybe some new information could be added, which the original person or the original storyteller did not intend. But still, oral tradition is a very important tradition because there are songs, there are ballads, there are hymns, mantras, whatever else, wisdom, idioms. All of these can be used as sources of history. How authentic, we don't know. But yes, they can be used as sources. And then, of course, the next are the artifacts. So you come to know nowadays science has developed so much that you can actually go ahead and understand by methods like radiocarbon dating. Okay, we will get into that some other time, but these are methods of understanding the age of an artifact. So you come to know how old was this. So there is a relationship, right? I mean, maybe you found an object that was like 300 years or 3000 years old or 30,000 years old, and that's what the science said. That is what the uh, machine that you have said. Then you start wondering, did the people 3000 years ago have this technology? How did they have this technology? How could they make composites? How could they cast them? What were the toolings that were available to them? And then logically you can construct some history. So artifacts are very important. And then you have other things like architecture, monuments, buildings, implements, so many other things which can be taken as a source of history because it is giving you information. So, just below this, I have written, why are these called as sources? Why are these sources? And I've also given an answer. That is because they give us information about the past. Anything, any artifact, any letter, any inscription, any architectural building, any material, anything that gives you information on the past becomes your historical source. So, I hope you understood everything that is written above this line, which is basic definition of the sources. In our next video, we are going to look at the main two types of sources. Of course, we'll also be looking at other than primary and secondary sources, we'll be looking at tertiary sources as well. But that is in the next video. So, thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate that. All the best. I'll see you next time.